So, what do you include in your personal statement? Welcome back to our ongoing series on how to get into graduate school. If you've watched the last videos, you've done the brainstorming exercises, you have a sense of kind of some approaches and ways to think about graduate school application, you've contacted potential advisors, and now you're really focused on what's the heart and soul of your application, which is your personal statement. Now, in a future video, we're going to talk about how to approach this, because there are some schools that will have a personal statement and also something that's like a letter of academic interest, or they specifically divide up the personal and the intellectual mission. But here we're going to approach this from the point of view of schools, graduate schools that ask you to write a personal statement. Like I said, if you've watched the previous videos, you at this point will have a bunch of brainstorming materials that we produced as part of that process. Now what I'm going to do is to go through that brainstorming material and to figure out an overarching organization that you can use to help build your personal statement. What you're going to need now is obviously those pages that you've written in for your personal statement. You're going to need 3 highlighters and then a pen. And then also, if you have a word processing program that you prefer, you can use that, because we're going to start to populate things within a word processing document. Now, broadly speaking, there are 3 tranches, 3 buckets of information that will go into your personal statement. The first is your path to the field. All right. This is kind of your journey within this subject from the moment you became excited about it up till now. Second is a forward-looking examination of what you hope to accomplish. And lastly is a much more specific and tailored part for each school that you apply to, which is why you're a good fit for that particular program, school, advisor, etc. All right. You have your materials, and what I want you to do is, for each of the 3 buckets that we just talked about, select a color. So for example, you can say blue will be your path to the field, red will be what you hope to accomplish, and green will be for your fit for a particular program. So what you're going to do is obviously take the materials that you've written out and just go through with your highlighter, and for every little bit of text, highlight it. All right. Choose one of those 3 colors that's appropriate. If none of them are appropriate, you can choose another color or you can leave it out. A lot of times this is the first process of winnowing out text. And so you say, this isn't relevant, I don't want to include it in my personal statement. That's fine. You'll go through what you've written, and at this point, you're going to start to port it over to a word processing document, Word, whatever it is that you're using. So you've highlighted it and you've organized it now into these kind of 3 buckets, and you can then start to build out an outline, understanding that for the most part, the basic beats of a graduate school outline are going to follow this pattern. Path to the field, I think, is a really important part of it, because it serves as a great introduction for your text, right? So you're trying to explain why you want to go to this graduate school, telling the reader the moment that you became excited about the subject, that you thought that there were interesting questions within it. That can be really useful. And again, as I've said this in previous videos, I think it's really important to make sure that your essay conveys a sense of excitement and passion. It will resonate with the reader, particularly since these are people who are excited about the same field that you are. So make sure that you engage them on that level. All right. And then as you progress, the thing that you'll start to bring in are your specific accomplishments within the field. So if you have worked in a lab that's relevant, if you've done some publications, if you've worked under a professor who works in this field, all of those things will fill out that part of the essay that has to do with your journey to the field. So that's your past. You now want to shift to the moment in your essay where you're going to talk about your future, your intellectual future, what you aspire to do. And for this, it's helpful if you think about 2 points. One is, where are you and what are you doing right at the end of graduate school? And then maybe project forward 10 years. These points shouldn't and probably won't specifically be in the essay. You won't say 10 years from now I'll be doing this, but they are very helpful in terms of helping you to lay out what you view as your future program and trajectory are. What are the questions that you're going to be asking? What are the specific subjects that you're going to be working within and exploring and trying to find answers to? At this stage, it can be helpful in terms of organizing your thoughts to ask yourself, I'm going to write a dissertation at the end of this, either a master's or a Ph.D. thesis. What would the title of that be? What would it actually look like? And once you start to hammer those details out, it will help you then write this section of the essay. You also want to make sure that you situate yourself within the field. So if there are particular experts that you think you can build on, or that you have an important nuance or wrinkle that you can add, or if you're feeling really bold, you can say, I think this expert is wrong for these important reasons. Situate yourself. Show where you are intellectually and academically, because that will show kind of a genuine sense of familiarity with the field that will come across well. We talked about this in a previous video, but it's worth going over again, which is this question of how specific you should get. I believe, and having talked to a lot of different professors and people in admissions, and having gone through it myself on all sides of this, I think the more specific that you can get, the better. A lot of times people will try to pull a game theory where they say, I want to be just specific enough so that I show that I'm an expert, but I want to leave open the idea that I'm open-minded, so I'll be kind of vague and non-committal. I think that's a mistake. I've explained that previously. That having been said, there is a way that you can approach this where you split the difference a little bit, so you do demonstrate a level of expertise without necessarily showing that you are incurious. So here's kind of 3 approaches, and I'll use kind of a generic example pulled from American history. So let's suppose for our purposes that you're applying for a history PhD, and kind of a poor version of this would be, at some point in your essay, you say, I'm interested in studying 19th century American history. Meh, all right, not great. Better would be is if you said something like, quote, the problems of racial strife and economic inequality took root in post-Civil War Reconstruction. The work of Professor Jones, exploring the abandonment of freedom, is an indispensable starting point for understanding how the mechanics of race and class worked in 20th century America. The opportunity to work under the tutelage of Professor Jones would thus be invaluable to my intellectual journey. All right, that's better. Now, if you're concerned about being too specific and not, tying yourself down, then there's a little tweak that you can add. All right. So here's kind of the best version of that. The problems of racial strife and economic inequality took root in post-Civil War Reconstruction. The work of Professor Jones, exploring the abandonment of freedmen, is an indispensable starting point for understanding how the mechanics of race and class created 20th century America. And here's where we deviate a little bit. We add something. Importantly, these processes took place within the broader context of colonial, gender, and geopolitical forces that shaped how class and race manifested in America. In this sense, it would be invaluable to learn within a department that also features professors doing excellent work within the fields of gender studies, American empire, and international history. All right, so what you've done here is you say, this is the thing I'm interested in, but I'm actually also really interested in engaging in the wide range of questions that experts within this department can help me explore. All right, so you're not only hyper-focused on this really narrow question, you have broader interests and you have an open mind to other perspectives that will move you closer to a really nuanced, granular, and personal answer. All right, lastly, about your fit. This part of the essay was usually kind of the last quarter to last third. Focus on the unique resources, opportunities, labs, etc. Do not be generic. Don't say things like the great faculty without then talking about which faculty there are, or like the unique resources without saying what those resources are. Be specific, not generic. Here, you certainly want to talk about the professors you hope to work with and why. Again, we have a previous video where we talk about how you select professors, how you interact with them, and reach out to them during the application process. And lastly, if you're applying to a lot of schools, which most people do, it's a good idea to kind of build the first 3/4 to 2/3 of the essay as being applicable to any particular school, and then have this last portion of the essay be the one that you build for each school. So that, the first 2/3 are the same, the last third for each successive school you customize. And you want to make sure that these are really fully fleshed out and granular, so it makes clear that you're not just cutting and pasting the name of the school in there. Hopefully this will give you a good idea of how to construct a personal statement and the things that people expect to see within it. And in the next couple of videos, which I think are going to be fun, we're going to explore kind of what happens once you send your application off and what is it that the admissions committees look for and care about. Knowing this can be a really important strategic advantage to you as you put together your application materials. Again, if you need any help with your graduate school application personal statements, please reach out to us at gurufy.com. I'm Brian. You can reach me at service@gurufy.com. Good luck in your application process, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.